Kia is moving to an upmarket direction. And here in the Philippines, this new Kia Sorento is one of the vehicles leading that charge. And so with that in mind, should you pick this over its chief rivals, the Mazda CX-8, or its corporate cousin, the Hyundai Santa Fe?
From a design perspective, ang gwapo ng Kia Sorento. It's a really handsome mid-size crossover SUV. So let's start with the front end. Ito ka ng slim but wide grille. It's rocking the new Kia logo and it's flanked by sleek LED headlights. Ang gwapo rin nung basically the entire front end. Every design element works cohesively well to give you a very handsome looking crossover SUV. Down the bottom, you have more gloss black trims. You have also a satin silver finish sa mga lower parts of ng front bumper to give it that more handsome look. And then, going down the sides, you have 19-inch wheels, which looks really nice, by the way. Satin silver trim here, which is actually just an aesthetic element, doesn't actually do anything functional. It's trying to mimic an air vent, pero yeah, it looks okay naman. It looks really nice, though not functional. Then you also have a satin silver trim sa windows niya. And this is interesting, you have this sort of blade thing na effect sa kanang C-pillar, and it looks really nice, by the way. Ang ganda na tingnan din. Along with the chisel lines sa kanyang katawan, it really makes the Kia Sorento look very sleek from the side profile. It avoids a slab-sided look that you normally associate with SUVs this big na, no? Down at the back, you have vertical LED taillights and more satin silver elements sa kanyang rear bumper, and then of course it's rocking the new Kia logo at the back then as well. And then the Sorento emblem at the rear, it's very big, so you wouldn't really mistake this for another crossover SUV. And actually, in terms of design then, you really wouldn't mistake this for any other crossover SUV because it actually looks really sleek, really stylish, and it stands out actually in the parking lot. Somehow, I think it looks better pa nga in some ways than the Mazda CX-8. So, yeah. Now, let's go on to the interior of the Kia Sorento to see if that stylishness carries over to the inside of the car. So now that we're here inside the new Kia Sorento, and actually, the interior design matches the stylish exterior of this crossover SUV. But first, in terms of materials, yung kanang dash, doors, and the upper parts of the interior are all finished in soft touch materials or even leather and leatherette surfaces, which is actually really good. So you have satin silver elements and surrounding the air vents. Ito sa kanang faux wood trim. I like the fact that it's matte wood trim, so it somehow simulates wood really well. Hindi siya totoong wood, but it simulates wood really well because I really hate it when manufacturers use glossy fake wood. Halatang-halata na peke siya eh. But anyway, yeah, the interior looks really stylish. Plenty of buttons, though yung climate buttons are not buttons, they're more of touch surfaces. Pero okay lang, at least everything else is operated via buttons pa rin. So you have the drive modes here for the heated and cooled seats, by the way, for the front seats. And then the driver is greeted with a 12.3-inch instrument cluster and an 8-inch infotainment system. So ibang bansa with the higher variants, you get actually a 12-inch infotainment then that's matched with the large instrument cluster. Pero yeah, here in the Philippine market, you only have an 8-inch screen. Pero either way, I'm willing to forgive it because the Mazda CX-8 also has an 8-inch screen lang din naman. So, pero yeah, in terms of functionality, it's actually really good. You have hard buttons on the side, responsive infotainment as well. You have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, both of which are wireless. Yun nga lang napansin ko lately na wireless smartphone mirroring isn't actually as good as I was expecting, no? So lately I've been driving cars with wireless Apple CarPlay, and all of them, literally all of them, whatever the brand, has the tendency na mag-disconnect siya at some point during your drive. But anyhow, yeah, the infotainment system is really nice, very responsive, and thanks to the hard buttons on the sides nga, as I mentioned kanina, it's very easy to use. So you also have wireless charging, and yeah, actually here in the front, it's really a great place to sit in. I just hope that it had a premium sound system because this car costs 2.5 million pesos. The CX-8 has a Bose sound system, so sana in the Kia Sorento also had the premium sound system. Let's now talk about safety. So this being the SX variant, you have automatic emergency braking from the sensors here sa kanang windshield, automatic emergency braking, lane departure warning, lane centering, also called lane following assist by Kia or Hyundai, and then you also have blind spot warning with rear cross traffic alert. that also comes with the blind spot camera, which displays a camera feed on your gauge cluster whenever you use a turn signals. Actually, it's very useful. Better pa nga, in my opinion, compared to the Honda lane watch system. So now let's check the back seats, whether they're as good as the front area of the Kia Sorento. So now we're here at the back of the Kia Sorento, and being a mid-size SUV or a crossover SUV pala rather, there's tons of space. Look at that legroom. There's an insane amount of legroom, and the seats can be moved forward and back. Ito yung nasa pinaka-max na atras ng upuan. So, ang sobrang lawag na car ko ang Dume 4 actually. So, there's plenty of legroom. This is, by the way, in my driving position. So, this takes into account a tall driver and a tall rear passenger. So, it's also a genuinely wide car. So, it can fit 3 adults ang walang problema and without fighting for shoulder room. And it's a really spacious car. Yun nga lang, if you're into something that's more luxurious, you're really gonna be looking towards the Mazda CX-8 because so dun sa CX-8 all-wheel drive exclusive, meron ka ng option to have the second row in 2 individual captain's chairs and the permanent center console. But here, it's a bench seat, but it's a comfortable one pa rin naman. And yeah, in terms of amenities, you have 3 USB ports, one on each side of the rear seats, or the front seats rather, and one on the center console. You have your aircon vents nga as mentioned, and you can control actually the rear seats, or rather the front passenger seat from the back because you have buttons here sa sandalan, which is, sa totoo lang, it's actually useful for executive driven na mga Sorento. But if you have a family and may bata nakaupo sa likod and yung bata ginawing upuan, syempre it's gonna be annoying for the front passenger. So yun nga lang, sana there's a sensor that detects na merong tao sa harap so you can control it from the backing front seats. Pero yeah, walang ganong sensor. But still, it's now a good time to talk about the third row of the Kia Sorento. So moving here, the third row ng Kia Sorento, and to access, it's just a simple push of that button sa ibabaw dito. Then, nga lang, this is an SUV, a crossover, so in terms of getting into the third row, it's not that easy. Okay naman, pero like, things could be better. So, yeah, in terms of second row legroom kanina, napansin ang sobrang luwag niya. Yun nga lang, for that to happen, there's concessions pagdating sa third row space nga lang niya. So, I really have no headroom at all. My head is practically wedged. Ewan ko kung kita nyo pala, pero yeah, my head is practically wedged sa ceiling ngayon, and I literally have no headroom because of that stupid roofline thing then. Yun nga lang, in terms of yung legroom, kung dahil nga maluwag ang second row, you can ask nice with the people in front, and you're given with a good amount of legroom sa third row. It's actually pretty good in terms of legroom. Headroom, not so much actually for my 5'11" height. Pero, yeah, it's about as good as you could get actually in a crossover SUV sa totoo lang. In terms of cargo carrying talaga, or rather, carrying people in the third row, you're better off with the Kia Carnival, or basically an MPV, because that's what MPVs are seriously meant to do naman talaga, diba? Oh, so you have your own aircon controls at the back, and you also have a charge port pa nga dito sa kanyang third row. So that's really useful for people who want to charge their devices in the third row seats ng Kia Sorento. And now that's a good time for us to move to the cargo area of the Kia Sorento.
With the third row seats in place, the Sorento offers 187 liters, which means choosing between friends or luggage on a long road trip. But once you fold down those third row seats, cargo space then jumps to 616 liters, which is actually pretty good for the class. If you fold down those second row seats as well, the cargo hold increases to more than 2,000 liters, which is massive by any means. Now as for engines, or rather engine, all variants come with a 2.2-liter 4-cylinder turbo diesel engine, which produces a stout 202 horsepower and 441 Nm of torque, which is all sent to the front wheels via a wet 8-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission. And with all of these things out of the way, how does a Kia Sorento drive on the open road?
So let's start here with driving the Kia Sorento around town, and the Kia Sorento drives reasonably well. It's very comfortable, though the suspension is on the firm side. If there's one thing that I have a gripe about sa Kia Sorento though, it's gonna be the suspension. So at low speeds, it actually has a firm ride and it somehow delivers the bumps, lalo na yung mga maliit na bumps, almost unfiltered to the cabin. So surprisingly on that aspect, it's actually the Mazda CX-8 that's the better crossover SUV in terms of ride, especially in city. So sabi ko naman sa review ko naman ng CX-8 na it's the least sporty Mazda. Yun nga, the suspension of that car is really good whatever the speed. So yeah, here in the Kia Sorento, the ride's a bit firm on the kapag let's say sa mga city speeds ka lang. But it improves as you go faster. And the refinement's really good. Road and wind noise is well kept to a minimum. And speaking of the engine noise, there's actually not a lot of engine noise then. And sa totoo lang, Hyundai Kia, the Hyundai Motor Group sa totoo lang, make really good diesel engines. And here in the Kia Sorento, it's really, really great. So, it's quiet, it's refined, and let's come to here to a full stop lang muna in this intersection to demonstrate to you yung kanang acceleration. So, I like that. It's delivering power in a very linear fashion. There's plenty of torque whichever RPM you're in, and the 8-speed dual clutch that's mated to this car is really good. It delivers the shifts responsively, and it's smooth din yung kanyang gear changes, and very quick. Makita mo yung kanyang revs when it does the gear change. Sobrang snappy nung gear changes niya. In addition to that, let's say sa mga accelerate, it will really downshift to the correct gear. Hindi siya nag-gear hunt. It's really a well-tuned 8-speed dual clutch transmission. One of the best I've experienced at this price point. Steering is also pretty light in terms of effort. So if you're driving this around the city and doing U-turns, this is gonna be an easy car for you to drive kasi ang chill niya lang as a result of that. At the same time, the steering of the Kia Sorento doesn't offer any form of feedback whatsoever. But at least there's a degree of precision to the steering. So at least alam mo what to point or where to point the wheel when you're going through corners pala rather. But in terms of driver connection, since you're not aware of what's happening in the front wheels nga lang, wala kang feedback, wala kang resistance masyado, if whether you're losing grip or not, it's not a fun steering. No? It doesn't offer any driver relationship to the car. In terms of cornering as well, there's also a bit of body roll if you push it more to the corners. I can't demonstrate it to you right now as of this moment because we're on roads that are highly regulated with speed limits. So syempre, we have to be responsible drivers, diba? But anyhow, prior to the shoot today, I've taken the Sorento na on a lot of twisty roads, and yeah, it's not really what you would call a fun to drive and sporty crossover SUV. It's not bad, mind you. Baka isipin nyo it's a bad crossover SUV. No, it's not. It's just that this crossover SUV talaga is really meant for comfort and long distance refinement. So out here in the open highway finally, this is where the Kia Sorento shines absolutely brightly. So the cabin supremely refined, super quiet. The diesel engine just hums into the background, and again, the dual clutch 8-speed shifts to the correct gear if you want to overtake a slower car. And you know what, yung kanyang rigidity ng katawan niya, I always talk about rigidity because that's what defines for me usually a car that feels more premium or upmarket. And here's a Kia Sorento, even if we go through rougher patches of road dito sa highway, there's not a lot of vibrations that enter through the cabin. So it's very comfortable, ang super quiet niya, and yung stability talaga, yung favorite ko sa kanya. Kasi it's really easy to track this car straight on highways, no? So, tawag dito, hindi siya yung you're gonna do a lot of steering corrections to keep the car straight sa highway. Dito, chill ka lang, it's very stable. And as mentioned kanina, the ride is better at high speeds nga. And here, as in now that we're here at high speeds sa highway, talagang it's really dealing with the bumps sa expressway really well. And now that's a good time for me to actually talk about the car's fuel economy, by the way, because the Kia Sorento being a diesel, I think this is one of the advantages of the Kia Sorento over the Mazda CX-8 is that because of its diesel engine, yun nga, it pulls really well, effortlessly, even with 7 people. And as a result of that then, because it's a diesel nga, it's very fuel efficient. So now I'm doing 16.2 kilometers per liter. So okay, granted, that was mostly highway driving, pero for my driving situation talaga kasi, since di mo taga Manila, kung nakita naman mga reviews ko, I don't live in Manila, so Hindi ko naman drive sa traffic yung mga sasakyan. So talagang I will really post high fuel economy numbers. But under the similar circumstances, yung Mazda CX-8 being a 2.5 liter naturally aspirated gas engine that only did around 8.5, 8.7 km per liter. So this is twice the fuel economy of that Mazda. So kaya as a result of that, mahaba ang range itong Kia Sorento on a full tank. So this is able to do 750 kilometers, isipin niyo yun, 750 kilometers ng full tank. Just like in some PPVs pa nga, like the Mazda BT50 or of course yung kanyang base car, the Isuzu D-Max. This car can really travel long distances without refueling. And if there's one key advantage that the Kia Sorento has, it would be its diesel engine, I think.
Pricing for the Kia Sorento starts at a little over 2.4 million pesos, and that gets the base EX variant. For that price, you get stuff like leather seats, full LED lighting, a power adjustable driver's seat, 19-inch alloy wheels, analog gauges, an 8-inch touchscreen with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, a powered tailgate, just to name a few. On the other hand, the top-of-the-line SX variant gets you stuff like heated and cooled front seats, power adjustment for the front passenger, fully digital gauges, wireless charging, and though it comes with the aforementioned suite of advanced driver assistance tech, it does still miss out on stuff like adaptive cruise control. Compared to the Mazda CX-8, the Kia Sorento is on the more expensive side of things, especially when you consider the fact that for the base price of a Kia Sorento, you're already getting the top-of-the-line CX-8, which after all is one of these cars' cheap rivals. So the diesel engine and drivetrain's really good, and in fact, it's nearly enough of a selling point for me over the CX-8. But for a lot of its buyers, they will likely gravitate towards the CX-8's attractive price point, as well as its 5-year free maintenance program. But otherwise, if you're really sold on the Kia Sorento's excellent drivetrain, then you'll surely enjoy this stylish crossover SUV. However, a similarly powered and similarly priced base Kia Carnival also exists. And if it were our money, we'd probably gravitate towards a premium MPV instead. Which, for the record, is already Kia's second best-selling car in the Philippines.